Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since I have done a video, way too long. This is something I really enjoy doing, but it is just something that also takes time, and especially if I want to do anything like with talking or anything, a lot of times I have a lot of background noise and just mom life. So finally getting around to doing this. If you don't follow me on social media, this is going to be new to you that I have a newborn on my lap. But I want to get this film for you. By the time you're watching it, she will be a month old, which is so hard to believe because it feels like those last weeks we were very much anticipating her arrival, and then it has just gone so fast since. But I want to give a little bit of a backstory of how we got to her birth, and then I will share her birth story. So if you don't follow me on social media, when I first found out that I was pregnant with her, we had went to a care center for checkups and things until I was around 22 weeks. I was just not happy with the experience I was having at the care center. Nothing against them, but first of all, I was not assigned a certain midwife. I was always getting a different midwife, and I preferred having one midwife for all my checkups. And yeah, just thinking of not knowing who I'm going to get for the actual birth and all of that was just something that I was not really happy with. And then also, they were only open a couple days a week, and that was the only time I was able to get a hold of somebody. So if I had questions or something, I had to wait to call until the day of the week that they were open. And so yeah, along with that, I never thought I would do a home birth. I was always somebody who said I just would never. And then I had spent a month in Colorado with my family, and my two sisters were pregnant as well, and so we obviously talked a lot of pregnancy and just all those things, childbirth. And my sisters were both planning to have a home birth, and so the more we talked about it, the more I felt like it might be something that I would actually maybe like. I just had never done research on home birth. I had just always said no to it and didn't even do my own research. So if you are somebody who is looking into home birth or maybe hesitant to do it, I would encourage you to do your research. And I don't have anything against hospitals, birthing centers, anything like that. I'll get more into the whole home birth experience and why I loved it so much. Because yeah, hospitals are still awesome if you have complications and things like that. But anyway, so I started asking around to see if I could find a home birth midwife, because I was just looking to go in a different direction. When I got home from Colorado, I was like, I want to have a home birth. I talked to David about it, and he was all on board. He said he wants me to do whatever I feel comfortable with and whatever I prefer. And so we got a referral from a friend, and this midwife, we met up with her. We had like a meet and greet. She just kind of went over on how she does everything. And we just really loved what she had to say. She has over 40 years experience of midwifery, and she also had 9 home births herself. So I felt like she really knew what she was doing, and I could feel very relaxed and just safe with her, I guess. So we went that route, and fast forward to the birth. So Sunday, December 18th, around noon, we did not go to church that day because I had woken up feeling some contractions. It was nothing serious, nothing, it was nothing consistent, so I didn't feel like it might have just been Braxton Hicks. But I had, at my previous appointment the week before, I had talked to my midwife about doing or drinking Midwifes Brew and seeing what she thought about it, because on Sunday, by Sunday, I was 41 weeks, so I was technically a week overdue, and I was just so ready to have it over with and just be done. And so I talked to her about it. She said she is okay with me trying it. She would not recommend that I try it more than once, so if I do take it and it ends up not working, she would not recommend trying it again. So after lunch on Sunday, I took that, and if you're not familiar with Midwifes Brew or want to know what that is, you can look it up, Google it. But that kind of started the process of everything. I started having consistent contractions. It was nothing like major, but it was still enough that Sunday night I was not able to sleep at all. And then early Monday morning around 3 o'clock, all this while I was texting with my midwife and just kind of keeping her up to date on what was going on. I was, throughout the day, and that night I was having, like I said, consistent contractions. They were about 5 minutes apart or so and lasted around a minute or two. And so my midwife and she had 2 assistants with her that she was training. So they all came around 3:30. That was Monday morning, so December 19th, that morning. And I was planning to do a water birth. So at a previous appointment, my midwife had brought her pool. And so I woke up David when I knew that the midwives were coming. And he set up the pool for me. And we started filling that with water. And so by the time the midwives got here, they had about an hour drive. Actually, during that time too, after the pool was set up, we had been debating if we were going to take the boys to my in-laws before we went to bed, and we decided we're just going to keep them here and then we would see how it goes. We were hoping they would just sleep through the night, but when we got out the pump to blow up the pool, of course it was loud, and so that woke them up. And so after David had the pool blew up, he took the boys to my in-laws. He called his mom, and they met him. His brother brought his mom, and they met him halfway, because I was like, well, I don't want to be here by myself too long if this is going to progress very quickly all of a sudden. So they took the boys. They had them the rest of the time until after she was born. He got back, we got everything ready, the midwives got here, and then it was just kind of a waiting period. The next day, Monday, all day, I was obviously having contractions, and it didn't really feel like they were getting stronger. Like, they were super consistent, but not getting stronger really. And my midwife always said, like, she doesn't really check for dilation or anything like that unless a patient wants her to. And so I think it was around noon or so, I was finally like, just please check to see how far I'm dilated, because I just need to. At this point, I was almost 24 hours into it, and I just needed to know, like, what was going on, if I'm making progress, because I felt like if I know I'm making progress, it's going to be easier to get through it. So she checked for dilation. The first time she checked me, I think I was like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated, but my cervix was super thin and soft. And so she said normally if somebody is 4 to 5 centimeters dilated, they would go home and wait it out. But since my cervix was so thin and soft, she said once I actually start pushing, it's going to go super fast. And so that kept them here because they knew, like, if I all of a sudden dilated really fast and started pushing, like, they would not get here in time because they had like an hour drive. So they stayed here, and in the afternoon, my midwife encouraged us to go on a bumpy ride, like go find a dirt road that was super bumpy. And so David drove, and we went on a drive for quite a while, and I felt like that definitely picked up things. Like, I was feeling the contractions were more intense while we were on the drive. We picked up some coffee for the midwives, brought that back here. I rested for a while, and then I think at that point I asked her to check for dilation again to just see if that previous ride had done anything for me. And yes, it had. I was 7 centimeters dilated by that time, so I feel like the bumpy ride had a lot to do with it. And so we were like, okay, if that made that much progress, let's go do it again. So we went on a drive again. We got back. I tried to rest, but at this point it was getting super intense, and I felt like, yeah, it was getting more serious, and it was really hard for me to be able to rest. Up to this point, we had the tub, or the pool, we had that filled, but I had not gotten into the pool yet. And so once we got back from that second ride, and after trying to go to bed and rest some, I just felt like I couldn't, and so I got into the pool. And by that time, I think it was like early evening on Monday, maybe like between 5 and 7, somewhere in there. And so I was in the pool for, I would say, a good hour or two, and just kind of, trying to breathe through each contraction. David was right there by my side. He was there for the whole thing, and I just have to shout him out for a second because he helped me through a lot. I had really, really bad back labor. That was worse than anything else. And so he would, rub my back through each contraction, and that helped tremendously. So yeah, I was so thankful to have him there. My midwives did even mention later, like, they felt like they didn't even have to do anything because he was right there for me, and doing what they normally would do. So yeah, it was really nice. But I was in the pool for a while, and finally I felt like I couldn't, like, the back of the pool was like really straight, and so I didn't feel like I could really relax or lay back. I was some on my hands and knees, kind of leaning out over the pool a few times. But finally I was just like, I want to try and go in and lay in bed because I was not feeling like I could really relax anymore. And when I got out of the pool, it was intense. Like, I had, I think, like 1 foot out of the pool, and all of a sudden I started having contractions, like one after the other. Like, I was not getting a break in between them. And I tried different positions. I tried like leaning on a chair. I tried, squatting and on my hands and knees, like all the different positions. I just felt like at this point, I think I mentioned something about, like, I feel like I just can't do this anymore. Like, I give up, like. And then the midwife suggested trying to, like, go and sit on the toilet and kind of, maybe she said sometimes that helps to relieve the pain, or just helps you to relax better, because you can feel like you can really, kind of get through it. So I was on the toilet for a while, and that was getting super uncomfortable too. I tried going into the shower. The midwife thought maybe if I have like hot water running over my back. Like, it would help relieve my back labor, because like I said earlier, that was the most intense back pain or labor. Like, it was really, really intense, and I just feel like having back labor just makes the whole laboring process 10 times harder. Um, and so that was my biggest thing, like, that I just, the rest of it, I didn't feel like was that, or I never felt like it got to the point of almost being unbearable. But the back pain, yeah, it's just hard to explain unless you've went through it. And then, yeah, after I tried, like, the shower, things like that, I finally just went into bed. I said I need to try, like, I need a soft surface. At that point, I just wanted somewhere soft to lay on. But every time I had a contraction, most times, I was on my hands and knees, or, like, on my knees, and kind of put my head down on the pillow, and had my arms, like, out front. That was the most comfortable position at this point. And yeah, at this point, a few hours had gone past, so it was getting closer to like 9-10 o'clock, I would say, probably. And this was Monday evening. And so yeah, we were getting to the point of like, well, yeah, the whole, from when I took the Midwifes Brew until she was born was basically 36 hours. But I think it was then, yeah, I kept laboring. She never checked me for dilation again, but I knew, like, with contractions like that intense and not getting a break, like, I had to be dilating. And at that point, it was just David and I in bed. The midwives were in the living room, just kind of giving us our space, and I was finally like, I just said, I have to push. Like, I just felt a sudden urge to push. And so the midwives all came into the bedroom. They prepared, and yeah, I started pushing. My midwife looked at her phone to see what time it was when I first started pushing, and it was 11:50. So we were 10 minutes from Tuesday morning. And I just, at that point, I thought, okay, we're going to have a December 20th baby. But I pushed, I think, 3 full times, and she was here. So I pushed for a total of like 5 minutes. So that part, I felt like made the 36 hours of labor worth it. Or I felt like I would have rather went through 36 hours of labor and just 5 minutes of pushing than having a few hours of having to push. But yeah, it was all such a good experience, even though in the time I just felt like, yeah, right after she was here, I just fell back against my pillow, and I was just so wore out. Like, after 36 hours of no sleep at all and laboring, I was just so wore out and so done. But after she was born, then, yeah, my first reaction, when she was born, she kind of had, the cord was not wrapped around her neck, but I think it was kind of under her arms, because it took the midwife a little bit to get her, the cord, like, unwrapped from her. And while she was unwrapping her, I asked her, so is it a boy or a girl? And she said, you'll find out for yourself. So I had to wait a little bit until she had the cord unwrapped, and she handed her up to me before we actually knew the gender. And yeah, when she handed her to me, I was just like, it's actually a girl. I had such a hard, well, Dave and I both had such a hard time believing it. I had kind of felt up to, the last couple weeks, I was leaning more towards a girl. I felt like, I'm not even sure why I felt that, but David was always like, it's another boy. So yeah, it came as a big shock for him, especially. I think it was a lot because we had 2 boys and we just couldn't really imagine ourselves with a girl. But yeah, we have just truly loved the past month spending with her, and she has just been such a good baby. She's so happy and content. She is starting to do better at nights now. For a while there, she was up quite a bit, and yeah, just kind of like every newborn does, like it takes them a little bit to get their days and nights switched around, but yeah, last night she was only up like 3 times to feed and was sleeping the rest of the night, so hoping that continues. Yeah, I just feel like it was the best experience. Like, it was so relaxed, and my midwives basically let me take the lead, and yeah, they didn't try to push anything on me, make me do anything I didn't want to do. Like, they would make suggestions, but they were always like, it's up to you. So yeah, hopefully I didn't skip any parts. I'm trying to think if I left anything out. We did then, they did right after she was born, they gave us what you call the golden hour. So they left the room. We did, well, after I delivered my placenta, they did not cut the cord. I asked that we would just leave that on for a while, and so they gave us about an hour after she was born with her, just David and I in the bedroom, and all that time we didn't cut the cord until that hour was up. So that was such an amazing experience, something that we never got at the hospital with the 2 boys. Like, they were always right there, cutting the cord, getting the baby cleaned up. Like, you didn't really have that time to just for you and your spouse with the baby. And so that was definitely something that was really, truly amazing. And yeah, I did ask y'all if you had any questions on my social media, and I did get a few questions, so I'm just going to take some time to answer those. The first one, did you give birth in the water? I kind of answered that already. I did not. I ended up not giving birth in the water. I would still like to, like, if we ever did have another one, I would definitely love to try that again, and just see if I would be able to this time. But I just felt like I could relax better out of the water. And then, yeah, I ended up laying on my back in bed to actually give birth. So, did you know the gender? No, we did not. I really feel like it was really hard to wait to find out the gender until birth, but I feel like it really helped me through the whole, like, the intense labor part. Like, I could tell myself, just keep going. Soon you're gonna know you're gonna get to meet him or her, and you are going to be able to find out the gender. Obviously, knowing the gender, like, you're still anticipating the arrival, but it just added an extra excitement to it, I guess. An extra anticipation of, getting to find out. So that part, I was glad. At that time, I was glad we waited to find out. What part of labor was the most enjoyable? I would actually probably say while we were on the car ride. I felt like something about the seat in the car. I kind of reclined back a little bit, and I just felt like, yeah, it kind of, at the end though, like after the second time we went on a drive, at the end, I actually told David, okay, we need to go back. Like, this is getting more than I can take. At one time, I unbuckled my seatbelt, and I was like kneeling on the seat facing back, and like kind of had my arms around the back of the seat, because I was just trying to get through them. So but yeah, like the first car ride we went on, I feel like probably was the most enjoyable. I was having contractions, but it was still like, I felt like I was able to just relax the best right then. So that's probably what I would say. Would you ever do a home birth again? Yes, 100%. Right after she was born, in like the following couple days, I wasn't sure I would. Just because I had epidurals with the boys both, and they were both born in the hospital. So this was my first experience of like truly having natural, like experiencing all that naturally, without any medication. I had with Jeremiah, like my epidural had worn off enough that I was able to still, like when I started pushing, I was able to feel like when I had to push. So I feel like I felt some of it at that with him, but it was still nothing like just totally with no medication. So, yeah, I gave it a little bit of time, and now, you know, I'm at the point where I would definitely, like, if there was no complications during pregnancy or anything like that, I would definitely go with a home birth again. It was just so relaxed. Yeah, it's just something about being in your own home. You can eat, you can drink liquids. Like, that was one thing about birthing in the hospital. You know, you're not allowed to eat anything. And I was always so starved right after with the boys. So yeah, that I would definitely do it again. Having experienced both a hospital and home birth, what would you prefer? I kind of answered that already. Definitely home birth. Like I said, a hospital, I have nothing against hospitals. And if there's complications, like I 100% like would think you would want a hospital. But if everything like is going good, I don't feel like there's a reason to go to a hospital. And yeah, just having experienced what we did with Jeremiah's birth, having him life flighted 24 hours after he was born and all of that, it was just so traumatic. I told David, like, if I would have had to think about going to the hospital to give birth, like when I started with labor with her, like I told him at that point, I don't think, almost like mentally I would have been able to, because of what we experienced with Jeremiah, and I feel like it would have had brought back all those traumatic memories. So yeah, if you haven't seen Jeremiah's birth story, you can go to my channel and scroll down. I'm pretty sure I shared that here on my channel too, like his whole birth story. But I feel like this got a little lengthier than I wanted it to. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. I always love hearing like all the details of a birth story. And so for those of you who like that too, I hope I'm just trying to think if I left out any details, but I don't think I did. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. And I'm hoping to continue to do more videos now, of just like daily life things, tips, recipes, things like that. So if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe, share it with a friend, and thanks for being here.